because of who's calling the shots and who's in the White House and the track record that he has given us. He's earned our trust that as the guy in the room making those decisions and having the intelligence briefings and knowing all the different pieces of the puzzle that are moving around the world, what to do. He's earned my trust for sure, that he's playing 4D chess and that this is about way more than just Iran or even Iran's nuclear capabilities. This is even bigger, I believe, than China and Russia, which is huge. I mean, obviously, there's some pretty clear indicators that both the Venezuela and the Iran situations are designed to, cut off oil supply to China and to weaken China. But it's even bigger than that. It's remaking the globe, remaking the map, not the map necessarily in terms of borders of countries, but in terms of support and in terms of decision making. I'll say the same thing I said when we arrested Maduro. There are people all over the planet shaking in their boots right now and rethinking their nefarious, evil plans to hurt us or hurt Americans around the world or hurt Israel or Taiwan or any of our allies. They are completely having to rethink their plans because of the show of strength, the peace through strength, and the ability to punish those who attack us. And in many ways, that's what this is. I understand this is, most certainly, the president has made a great case for why this was necessary to prevent after the intercontinental missile was fired. We have to stop them, right? We cannot allow them to get back to their nuclear capabilities. But we also have to stop their terrorism around the world. They are the head of the snake. They are the number one funder and planner and supporter of terrorism, not just against us and Israel, but around the world. And so all of those reasons make sense. But look, there's also an element of this that is, in fact, punishment for the attacks for the last 47 years. So to the people out there that are, and some of them are my friends, that are so concerned that we're about to enter another forever war, I think you've got it backwards. I think we are ending a forever war. I think this is President Trump saying enough is enough. You guys have been at war with us for 47 years, and we have, responded a little bit here and there, but we're done with playing that game. We're gonna change the whole game board, and so I'm thrilled, and I think it's the right move. And so I want to read to you real quick just a couple of lines from President Reagan, actually. So President Reagan in 1986 essentially made the same decision towards Gaddafi that President Trump has made towards Khomeini, and I do have to admit I did enjoy President Trump saying he tried to get me twice, I got him first. You got to enjoy that moment. But anyway, here's President Reagan on April 14th, 1986. Now, this is almost exactly 40 years. I mean, a month from now, it would be 40 years from the time that Reagan hit Gaddafi and gave these lines. And just as I read this, think Trump, okay? Think this situation that we're dealing with. Think what Iran has done. Think about how much President Trump tried to negotiate this. He tried peaceful methods. He tried to prevent this from getting to this point, okay? And Reagan did the same thing. Here's what Reagan said. We Americans are slow to anger. We always seek peaceful avenues before resorting to the use of force. And we did. We tried quiet diplomacy, public condemnation, economic sanctions, and demonstrations of military force. None succeeded. Despite our repeated warnings, Gaddafi continued his reckless policy of intimidation, his relentless pursuit of terror. He counted on America to be passive. He counted wrong. I warned that there should be no place on earth where terrorists can rest and train and practice their deadly skills. I meant it. I said that we would act with others if possible and alone if necessary to ensure that terrorists have no sanctuary anywhere. Tonight, we have. I love that. I mean, that is so succinct. It so wisely describes the entire situation that, look, we believe in the biblical value of just war theory. We believe you do not just randomly attack. You do not just rebel without cause. You do not start the fight, but you are prepared to defend, and you are prepared to prevent someone from harming your family, yourself, your country, whatever it might be. And so this same thread of the biblical value of just war theory from the beginning of our nation, from the moment that Captain Parker said at Lexington, don't fire unless fired upon, but if they mean to have war, let it begin here. From that expression of just war theory taught by Pastor Jonas Clark in the church there at Lexington to all the people that would then stand on the Lexington Green and fight that day on April 19th, 1775. From that moment, and even before that, because we were constantly offering ways to have peace with our own government. Anyway, I don't want to get too caught up. From that moment, even throughout our nation's history, and specifically stopping right there in 1986 with Reagan's words, to today and the way that President Trump has handled this, I believe we have been righteous in our cause, righteous in our act. Doesn't mean always. I get it. America has done horrible things, just like every other nation that has human beings in it. But from a relative comparison to every other nation in history, there is no comparison. There's no one that comes even close to doing the things that we have done to spare lives, to free people, to not respond until absolutely necessary. Actually, Israel does maybe even surpass us there, because they have put up with even more in terms of attacks and threats and everything else, and been willing to restrain and only attack when absolutely necessary. But to this point about Trump and sort of this Reagan spirit of resolve, just listen to those words, man. In fact, I know this will be really weird on AFR to say this, but if there's any other Def Leppard fans out there, there's a Def Leppard song from the 80s. I'm a child of the 80s. I can't help it. Yes, I listen to Stryper and Petra, but I also listen to Def Leppard and Journey. Anyway, so Def Leppard had this song where they actually play Reagan saying that. They counted on America to be passive. They counted wrong. In this particular speech, he says he counted on America because he's talking specifically about Gaddafi. But that's what's happened over the last, honestly, couple of decades, but for sure during the Biden administration. They got used to us being passive and receiving the attacks and not responding. And so if you think about Iran, you're talking about going all the way back to 1979, holding the hostages for 444 days or whatever it was, embarrassing America, humiliating our hostages, and President Carter, like Joe Biden, completely feckless, completely just, unbelievable. I remember interviewing Dick Cheney, 1994, and he was telling the story of Carter sending over fighter jets that weren't even armed, and Cheney saying, now what kind of president would do that? Like, he's attempting to show force but not willing to use force. What does that say to the world? Anyway, President Reagan, of course, does the impossible from what the left viewed and the Democrats, and gets the hostages released on the day that he's sworn in. Shows strength. The whole phrase, peace through strength. When you don't show strength, eventually you become weak, and there is no peace. There will be war. That's why Dr. Jordan Peterson's so right when he describes a man that is unwilling to be violent is not a good man. You have to be willing to be violent to defend what God's put in your responsibility to be good. So how can you be good if you're willing to sit back and your family be destroyed, or your community or your nation to be destroyed? That's not good. So there is a peace through strength that is at the personal level, which is why we train people to defend themselves and defend their family. PatriotAcademy.com if you'd like to come do one of those trainings. But it's also a national principle that Reagan articulated better than anyone, and that Trump he may not articulate it quite as good as Reagan did, but his actions are possibly even better than Reagan. Now that's hard, man. I got a kid named Reagan. Okay, so for me to say that, but I think even in this case, because I have moved Trump ahead of Reagan on my list of best presidents, I think even in this case, I think he is less likely. Trump is far less likely to to get caught up in a forever war like the Bushes did, or even to allow for something like the Beirut, killing of a couple hundred Marines. Not that Reagan allowed for that, but made the decision to pull out at that point, and the calculated decision to not keep the presence there. I just think Trump is the wild card where you don't know what the guy's going to do next, plays into all of this, and it is absolutely 100% constitutional what he's doing. So when we come back from the break, I'm going to dive a little deeper into that, because that's the number one question I get as America's Constitution coach. Everybody wants to know, is this constitutional? Isn't it Congress that gets to declare war? So we'll break that down a little bit and talk about the shared powers between the executive and the legislative branch with regard to our military power, and the steps that President Trump has taken following the War Powers Act, some of which I think are frankly unconstitutional. I think there's some limitations on the president that does that it definitely, I mean, you can argue it's not constitutional. You can absolutely prove it doesn't keep with precedent of what the Founding Fathers did. My friend Rod Martin has a great article on this that went out on yesterday, if you want to look him up and read the whole article. But anyway, there's, we've taught at Patriot Cat, or at Wall Builders for years on the Barbary Powers Wars, the quasi-war with France, some of those things that happened when you had Founding Fathers serving as president, where they showed that sometimes you declare war officially through Congress, but not always, and that it's perfectly fine for the president to defend our nation or to fight what seems like a war, and you could call a war, but terms mean things, and they did that. They did that with the quasi-war. They did it with other examples, and so I'll dive into it a little bit more when we come back from the break. But I just want you to just know right up front, what President Trump has done is 100% constitutional, and he's going above and beyond and complying with the War Powers Act and his reporting to Congress. It's part of why you've heard the people say that his plan is to do this in less than 4 weeks, is because if it lasts more than 60 days, some things trigger with requirements to Congress, 90 days, other things. So anyway, we'll dive into a little bit of that. We'll take your phone calls, 888-589-8840. That's 888-589-8840. Also want to talk about the Austin terrorism that happened on Sunday. So you had a Muslim terrorist that we welcomed into our country, legal citizen actually. I mean, he overstayed his visa and all that, but literally, going and shooting up a place right here in Central Texas, where I am, with a Property of Allah shirt and a Koran in his car. Expect more of this, folks. I don't say that to get you to be fearful. I'm just saying we got to be practical about the situation that we face and keep our head on a swivel and be vigilant. No fear. We're not given a spirit of fear, but what? Power, love, and a sound mind. Stay with us. You're listening to At the Core with Barker Wildman and Rick Green.
Attacks on the family seriously. The enemies of the family constantly employ new tactics to try to sneak past our radar. They know if we stand together, their evil plans will fail. Your gift to AFA Action allows us to stay vigilant against their onslaught. And if you give this month, you'll receive access to the Cultural Institute video, When Your Faith is Illegal, by Frank Harbor on AFA Stream as our thanks. You can make your gift today at afaaction.net.
Do you believe in the absolute inerrancy of God's holy word? Do you believe in the power of the Holy Spirit to radically change lives and empower us to live like Christ? At Wesley Biblical Seminary, we believe God is raising up a movement of people across our nation and across the world. And if you believe these are the kinds of pastors we need leading our churches in the future, we invite you to learn more about partnering with us through giving. Learn more about Wesley Biblical Seminary at wbs.edu today.
According to a recent study of hundreds of post-abortive women, 60% of women reported that they would have preferred to give birth if they had received more support from others or had more financial security. And that's where Preborn steps in. Meet Kelsey, a brave young woman who chose after meeting her child on ultrasound.
I ended up deciding to keep my son, who is now 5 years old today. I love him to pieces. He brings absolute joy to my heart. I could not imagine life without him. Not only did they help me save his life, they saved my life.
When you support Preborn, you support a woman to make a choice that she won't have to regret for the rest of her life and give her the ultimate blessing, life. To learn more about Preborn's life-saving work, dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby. That's pound 250 baby. Or visit preborn.com/AFR. The enemy wants to destroy anything of God's, especially mankind who is made in God's image.
What would it be like if every person knew that they were created in the image of God?
We're talking about people. People loved by the Father. People for whom Jesus died.
We have to stand on God's truth.
We hear in culture all the time, we need to find ourselves. We need to go find our identity. We are already defined. We are known before the foundations of the world.
In His Image is a life-changing film that has helped people break free from the grip of evil. It will take you through Scripture to show the truth, and its powerful testimonies will destroy Satan's attempts to pervert God's perfect design.
We now know with the genome of all of the DNA that there is no propensity towards a genetic disposition to homosexual behavior.
Watch it for the first time or again with someone who needs to see it. Get the 2 DVD set at resources.afa.net.
This is At the Core on American Family Radio with your host, Rick Green.
Welcome back to At the Core with Walker Wildman and Rick Green. Phone numbers 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. Wrapping up our two main topics today, and then we'll get to the phones, 888-589-8840. On the constitutionality issue, this is, of course, you're going to have people saying that he's rogue, that he's conducting war without Congress declaring it. And I've had friends over the years that felt that way even about the war on radical Islam that George Bush waged, and other instances. You go back to Vietnam, got the resolution, but was there a declaration? I mean, this gets debated a lot in some of the circles that I'm in. My view is pretty simple. The Constitution does say in Article 1, Section 8 that the Congress has the power to, quote, declare war, but it gives no description of how. So is that a particular kind of piece of paper? Is that a particular resolution? Is it just when they appropriate money? But since that's their main power, as Hamilton said, the president has the sword and Congress has the purse. His point also being that the court has nothing. It's supposed to be the weakest of the three, for sure. But anyway, there's lots of ways that I think Congress can, quote unquote, declare war through their actions and through the things that they do. So I personally think if the president is executing the laws and he's defending the nation and he's doing his commander-in-chief thing, and there's a threat out there, and he makes a decision to go take care of it, as long as Congress continues to write the checks, they are supporting and doing what, approving what the president is doing as a whole. And the founders' view was essentially that elections will take care of these things, and that if the nation disagrees or Congress really disagrees, the president's going to not get reelected, or the members of Congress are not going to get reelected. That the elections will ultimately take care of it. Now, there's clearly a need for checks and balances. You don't want a president to be able to do anything and everything. So I think there are historical, precedents for what Congress can do to stop a president from going too far. And again, the purse is the main way to do that. You can also shame them and pass all kinds of things. You can impeach ultimately if a president is completely out of control. But let's be practical about this. Do you really want 435 members of the House and 100 members of the Senate to somehow have to debate and come to enough of a consensus to be able to respond to an international threat that could destroy the nation in a matter of hours? No, of course not. It would not work. I mean, it would make us vulnerable to an attack with no ability to respond. So we vest in an individual the ability to respond quickly. That's where that trust the guy in the room is. And granted, I mean, it makes me very nervous when a Joe Biden is in office that can't even, comprehend what a cabinet would be briefing him on, let alone make a decision fast enough to respond. But that's the whole point of elections and why we campaign on those things, and we talk about the ability and the health and the mental, president absolutely has the ability to use